31 shots, all fired by one man.
You shot 3 individuals?
Yes, sir.
Crime Watch Daily first brought you the shocking video just after it happened. A stalker in full camo gear crawls across the grass, sneaking up on his prey and unloading his weapon. Two men lay dead. But was this apparent ambush really a case of cold-blooded murder, or was this suburban assault actually justified?
It's absolutely self-defense.
The prosecution.
He describes himself as a hunter-killer.
The defense.
And they light torches, chanting, "White power."
And the survivors left behind.
He walked up to me, pointing the gun at me.
5 years after 31 shots put Florida's Stand Your Ground law in the crosshairs, a verdict has finally been reached.
Mr. Woodward, if you would please stand to receive the verdict.
The dramatic surveillance video shows the gunfire in Titusville, Florida. People running for cover during an ambush that left one neighbor horribly injured and best friends Gary Hembry and Roger Pichor dead. Gary and his girlfriend Kim were hosting a holiday cookout, and it seemed like the whole neighborhood was there to party. Everyone except Gary's old friend, Billy Woodward. Gary's son Corey says his dad and Billy, an Army vet, had a major falling out in the weeks before the shooting. A war of words that quickly escalated, with Billy flipping the bird and Gary turning Billy in for raising chickens. Billy, who says he has PTSD, claims Gary and his friends taunted him until he snapped.
This is where the shooting took place.
Shortly after the shooting, Gary's mom bravely took Crime Watch Daily back to the scene, demonstrating how cops described what Billy did to their son.
He went over and he shot Gary, and Gary fell to the ground, and he went back to Roger, and he took his foot and flipped him over, his body over, and knelt down, and then shot Roger a couple more times. Gary yelled again. He was still alive, and he yelled again for the kids to run, and then he ran back over, and he just stood over. He just emptied his gun on Gary.
31 shots in all.
He had 17 bullets in him. He had 29 entry and exit wounds. When my husband and I went to the funeral home to do the services, I wanted to kiss him on his forehead because he never left me without a kiss. And they told me no. His head was blown off. I think his feet was the only thing that wasn't shot.
Cops arrest Woodward without incident, and in the interrogation room, he tells the detective his account of what led up to the shooting.
We've been tormented for the last month by these people.
Okay.
And they've been tormenting my parents, making threats against them.
Woodward's attorney, Greg Eisenmenger, had even more to say.
I'm talking about a month of domestic terrorism. We're talking about threats to burn down their home, to rape their daughter, to hire people to attack them. And it virtually happened on a daily basis, right up until the night that this finally accumulated.
But did authorities see it that way? After his arrest,
in count 1, it's alleged first-degree felony murder.
Woodward, wearing a bulletproof vest at his arraignment, was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of first-degree attempted murder. He pleaded not guilty. And that's not all.
How?
The admitted killer immediately demanded a special hearing to determine whether he could claim immunity from prosecution under Florida's Stand Your Ground law. That law says that if you're in fear of serious bodily injury, you have the right to stand your ground and defend yourself.
I put more bullets into his body because he was still alive, sir.
At that hearing, Woodward didn't hold back, telling the judge he killed in self-defense, sneaking up in a military crawl, then striking. He says only after he overheard his neighbors planning to kill him and his family.
So you weren't just shooting them because they were harassing your family?
No, sir.
You weren't just shooting them because they were saying nasty things about you and your family?
No, sir, that's not a reason to shoot him.
Okay. Why is it that you acted?
Because I heard them say, let's get together and do this. Grab your weapons, let's go.
The disabled Army vet says in his mind it was just like he was back at war.
Does a single soldier leave a viable enemy behind him?
You cannot, sir, because that enemy will get up and shoot you in the back. No, my military training has never left me. I was trained as a soldier. War had been declared upon my house and family and myself. Now I'm the only living link between my wife and children in imminent death. Do you not understand that, sir?
Gary's family and friends admit they sometimes crack jokes at Woodward's expense, but they say they never threatened him, and they did nothing wrong to warrant his military-style ambush. And at the end of the hearing, the court wasn't buying it either. In a 15-page ruling, the judge denied Woodward's claim of immunity from prosecution, saying the vet decided to preemptively strike at his victims at a moment when it was entirely unnecessary to do so, and when they were entirely unaware of his presence. Prosecutors were allowed to move forward on charges of murder. At that trial, which wrapped up just weeks ago, Woodward's defense once again tried to paint the victim as a domestic terrorist who posed as an imminent threat.
Some of them are talking about making a bomb and blowing stuff up.
Woodward's attorneys even got some surprise help from the only man to survive those 31 shots, neighbor Tim Blake. Though he was nearly killed himself, Blake admits he did hear Gary and his girlfriend make verbal threats against Woodward and even his daughter in the past.
She had said something to the effect about one of Billy's daughters.
And was it a threat to have the daughter raped by a man?
I think so.
But the prosecution has plenty of its own witnesses, including Roger Pishore's son, Justin, who almost became another casualty that night.
And I put my hands up and was like, "Don't shoot me, I didn't do anything." He walked up to me, pointing the gun at me still, but never shot.
In addition to that, prosecutors poke one very big hole in Woodward's stand-your-ground defense.
They weren't anywhere near his dwelling, his vehicle, or residence, or anything occupied by him. They were over across the way.
Finally, after 3 weeks of testimony, the jury was ready to make a decision.
Mr. Woodward, if you would please stand to receive the verdicts. The jury has returned verdicts of guilty.
Guilty on 2 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Though each charge was eventually dropped from first to second degree, each still carries a minimum sentence of 25 years.
The resolution will result in the defendant spending likely the rest of his life in prison, and the state's satisfied.
However, an unsatisfied Woodward is also standing his ground, already filing for appeal.
Woodward will be sentenced later this year. He faces a maximum of life in prison. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.